I planted bamboo that overrun my neighbor's property over a security light. About 4 years ago, I used to live in a nice HOA in a small town in Texas and enjoyed having only one neighbor over my backyard fence. The plot was about 2 acres, and the other side of the backyard butted up to a hayfield. The stars were beautiful at night because of virtually no light pollution. Until the neighbor decided to install an incredibly bright security light over their back porch aimed right at my back patio and bedroom windows. I tried to ignore it at first and put shades in the bedroom, but out on the patio it was like having a bright LED headlight in your face all night. I consulted the HOA about adding a privacy addition to my fence to increase its height, and they said no because it's already at the 8 max allowed height. They said there was nothing in the bylaws or whatever about bright lights, so nothing they could do. Diplomacy. So I hated for this to be the thing where we finally had a formal greeting after 3 years of back porch waves, but I walked over and rang the doorbell with $20. I politely explained how the light was causing the aforementioned nuisance and asked if there was any way I could convince him to point the light down or in a different direction, and even offered to buy him a case of beer, the $20, out of goodwill, and even a new motion-sensing light. He seemed nice and agreed to point it down, but after waiting a month, nothing changed. I went back to have another polite conversation, and he said he had changed his mind and was going to leave it on every night and leave it pointed as is. Petty revenge. Needless to say, I was a bit upset diplomacy failed and started figuring out how to win. If the military taught me anything, there's always ways to adapt and overcome. So I started researching fast-growing plants to create big privacy walls and reading through the HOA bylaws and city-state ordinances about what I could or couldn't plant, and if there were any repercussions for encroachment across the property line. I quickly discovered running bamboo, despite being very invasive, would grow super fast to make the neighbor's house and light disappear from view, and there was nothing on the HOA/state/city books to prevent me from planting it or cause legal recourse if it spread and grew on his side on the fence. The only thing he could do is cut anything that grew on his side of the line. So I pulled the trigger and planted a bunch of golden bamboo, which grows and spreads crazy fast in Texas and grows up to 20 feet tall. I didn't care if it took over the fence line because his house is 15 feet from the fence, while mine was 50 yards away, so I planted a bunch right against the fence and only put root barrier on my side to prevent it spreading into my yard. Within 6 months, his house and light were gone from view, replaced by a pretty bamboo jungle row at the edge of my yard. Within 1 year, he complained it was growing into his yard via mailed letters. They went right into the trash with no response. He rang my doorbell once and I looked at him through the window, but just didn't answer the door. I unexpectedly sold the house and moved 2 years after planting for a career opportunity. It's been 2 years since I sold, and I just checked the property on Google Earth, and his entire backyard is bamboo. Scumbag neighbor broke into my vehicle and stole my stuff, so I returned the favor. I rented a duplex in my early 20s. My neighbor was a wannabe gangster type and made the mistake of breaking into my vehicle one night. I had a small SUV with a removable soft top, so the neighbor figured it would be easy pickings to just peel back the top and help himself to my stereo, amplifier, CDs, and some other misc stuff. I discovered the break-in early in the morning after it occurred. I knew for certain who the culprit was. We were not in a heavily populated area, and my neighbor was well known for thievery. I waited around for him to leave his place, and when the opportunity arose, I went around the back of the house and looked through the bedroom window to find that sure enough my stuff was sitting right on the floor in there. I instinctively tried the window, and as luck would have it, the sash went right up. Bingo. I hopped through and quickly surveyed the items laying around. It occurred to me that I could get some excellent revenge here if I played it right. So rather than just recoup my stuff and wind up in a fight over it, I borrowed a marker and proceeded to write my name on all my stuff, and also a few choice items of his just for good measure. I then climbed back out the window and waited. When he finally came back, I called for some police presence and explained to them how my vehicle got robbed, and I knew it was the neighbor due to seeing through the window. We knock on his door, and I can still remember the look on his face seeing me and the cop standing there. He was not even close to ready for the encounter, and almost certainly had drugs on him, so he was very cooperative given the circumstances. I politely explained that I know he broke into my vehicle, and I needed him to return my stuff immediately, or I will have to press charges. He went and retrieved my things, and I pointed out my name written on them to the officer. I asked about my other stuff while he looked back puzzled and dumbfounded. I rattled off the other couple of choice items of his that I also put my name on earlier. The look on his face while he handed over his stuff to me while the cop was standing there was priceless. Girl assumed I was hitting on her. Gave her the same response she gave me. This was back in 08 or 09. I was in Quito, Ecuador. I was staying at a hostel and was there for just over 3 weeks. Less than a block away, there was an Irish pub. This pub has really good bar food that wasn't on the menu of a lot of other restaurants in the area, so because of that, it was a mixed crowd. Popular with locals and backpackers because the proximity to the hostel. I'm at the bar with some other guests from the hostel, and we are expecting a few more to join us. Next to me is a bar stool, and on the other side of the bar stool are 2 women talking. They're obviously friends. In Spanish, I ask the woman closest to me if she is using this empty chair, and is it okay if I grab it. Spanish is not my first language, but I can still speak it clearly and confidently, and grew up speaking it since I was a kid. She says to me in Spanish with a smirk on her face that she does not understand me, and she does not speak English. I ask for the chair again in Spanish while motioning to it, and she says again that she doesn't speak English. I ended up getting the chair from a high-top table that was behind us that no one was using. At this point, she turns to her friend and I hear them mumble, "I don't know why he's talking to me," and I hear them chuckling to themselves, assuming I was hitting on her, I guess, and she rejected me. Cue petty revenge. Throughout the evening, I know she heard me conversing in Spanish with the bartender, so by this time she knew I definitely spoke Spanish. The napkin dispenser is directly in front of me, and she asks me in Spanish if I can hand it to her. I look at her confused, and I point to the napkin dispenser, then look back at her and lean in a little as if I didn't hear what she said. She again says that she needs napkins, and if I can hand her the napkin dispenser, all in Spanish. I look at the dispenser and then her, and very clearly I say, "Lo siento, no hablo inglés." I'm sorry, I don't speak English. She gives me shocked Pikachu face and she turned bright red, and then I give her the cold shoulder. Don't flatter yourself, lady. I wasn't hitting on you. I just wanted the damn bar stool. Edit. No, the bar was not loud. There was music, but easy to carry on a conversation. Yes, I am sure I said it correctly. I am bilingual. Spanish was not my first language, and I typically don't write in it, but speaking it is fine for me and have been since I was a kid. Yes, this story really happened.